The Wizard's Laboratory of Things, Chapter 2. The Gripe Sheet, August 18th, 2026. Somewhere between the garage and the stars. By evening, the wizard had decided that it had been a good day. Not the sort of day that would make the evening news. No rockets had launched. No robots had walked across the laboratory. No mysterious portal had opened in the garage. And, perhaps most importantly, nothing had exploded. But laundry had been done. Supplies had been gathered. Cleaning materials had appeared where cleaning materials were supposed to appear. And the garage, after a considerable amount of archaeological excavation, was beginning to look less like the ruins of an unknown technological civilization and more like a laboratory. That counted as progress. The wizard stood in the doorway and surveyed the quaint 24 by 17-foot rectangle that was slowly becoming the new wizard's laboratory of things. Behind it sat the little town 24 by 3 half-foot storage room, connected through its doorway near the center. On paper, it was approximately 492 square feet of enclosed space. In the wizard's imagination, however, it was considerably larger. It contained a robotics laboratory, an electronics laboratory, a spacecraft engineering department, a communications station, a prototype shop, a video studio, a museum, and depending upon what was discovered in the next box, possibly the beginnings of an interplanetary civilization. The left side of the garage had been selected for something special. The Apache Space Age Wall. Equipment from the former laboratory was beginning to migrate there. Some of it had spent the last few years in what had subsequently become Kim's office. Now the instruments were coming home. There were analog instruments with knobs and meters, digital instruments with displays and buttons, power supplies, test equipment, communications devices, boxes whose exact purposes might require investigation, cables whose mating connectors probably existed somewhere else in the building, and pieces of equipment that had not been manufactured for years but remained perfectly capable of doing useful work. That was an important principle of the laboratory of things. Old does not necessarily mean obsolete. A 40-year-old voltmeter could still measure voltage. An analog oscilloscope could still show a waveform. A signal generator did not become ignorant merely because someone invented Wi-Fi. And sometimes older laboratory equipment provided something modern instruments hid behind menus and software, the ability to actually see what the machine was doing. That made it particularly valuable for the wizard's favorite form of experimentation: black box engineering. Put something in, measure what comes out, change something, measure again, form a hypothesis, test it, discover that the hypothesis was completely wrong, drink coffee, try again. That was science. Tad. The laboratory had 3 lives. As the wizard looked around, he realized the garage was becoming more than a collection of equipment. It was developing 3 personalities. The first was the pawn-working laboratory. This was where Global Robotics Corporation could experiment with robotics, sensors, electronics, communications, artificial intelligence, spacecraft systems, and prototypes. Some of the experiments might eventually contribute to the wizard's increasingly elaborate spacecraft studies. Others might find their way into the developing humanoid robotics work. And some would undoubtedly begin with the scientifically rigorous phrase, "I wonder what happens if we hook this to that." The second personality was the Yanship demonstration laboratory. The equipment needed to look good, not fake good. Working good. The wizard wanted a visitor, or a camera, to see instruments arranged like a genuine engineering station, because that was exactly what they would be. Displays glowing, meters moving, oscilloscopes showing signals, robotic components operating, computers collecting data. The laboratory could become a setting for videos, demonstrations, educational programs, promotional material, books, and the occasional bit of technological street theater. But behind the appearance would be actual capability. That distinction mattered. The third personality was the warehouse of possibilities. Not everything discovered during the Great Garage excavation belonged in the laboratory. Some things were tools. Those might migrate toward Global Handyman LLC. Some were merchandise. Those might find their way into the inventory of the Interplanetary Trading Company. Some were duplicates. Those could be sold, traded, or taken to another flea market. Some were parts. Some were historical. Some were mysterious. And some belonged to the ancient scientific classification. Don't throw that away. We might need it. The problem, of course, was that this particular scientific category could eventually occupy an entire building. So the wizard decided that the laboratory of things needed rules. Everything would eventually receive an identity. What is it? Does it work? What can it do? What is it worth? Do we need it? Where should it live? What project could use it? And perhaps most importantly, how many of these things do we really need? The flea market expedition had already demonstrated something valuable. Getting rid of unnecessary possessions could produce money. Finding useful possessions could save money. And knowing the difference between the two could be worth even more. The gripe sheet. That thought brought back an old Air Force memory. Aircraft maintenance had taught the wizard many things, including the extraordinary importance of writing down exactly what was wrong with something. When a pilot returned an aircraft, discrepancies would be recorded, so the maintenance crew knew what needed attention. Among the crews, these reports were often affectionately called gripe sheets. And somewhere in the long folklore of military aviation lived one of the wizard's favorite examples of why precise language mattered. A pilot reportedly returned an aircraft with the discrepancy: engine missing. The mechanic dutifully investigated. He opened the appropriate compartment. The engine was clearly present, so the mechanic completed the maintenance response. Engine found. Technically, the mechanic had solved the problem. Unfortunately, the pilot had meant that the engine was missing intermittently, misfiring. That required considerably more troubleshooting than locating the engine. No aircraft needed to disappear for the lesson to survive. The story had been passed around maintenance crews because underneath the joke was a serious engineering principle. A poorly described problem can produce a perfectly correct solution to the wrong problem. The wizard laughed as he remembered it. That was exactly what the laboratory of things needed. A laboratory gripe sheet. Every questionable instrument could eventually receive one. Oscilloscope. Powers on. Channel 2 intermittent. Power supply. Output unknown. Inspect before use. Signal generator. Functional when last tested. Calibration unknown. Robotic arm. Mechanical assembly good. Controller required. And never. Power supply missing. Unless, of course, the power supply was actually missing. Deluxe survival. The wizard had another reason to smile that evening. For a while, life had seemed dominated by basic survival. Keep the lights on. Keep things moving. Solve today's problem. Then solve tomorrow's. But something seemed to be changing. Money had begun moving again, even if cautiously. The flea market venture had worked. Projects were taking shape. Books continued appearing. Business ideas were beginning to connect with physical assets. Global communications remained quietly in the background. Global Handyman had practical tools and practical possibilities. The Interplanetary Trading Company offered a route for turning excess possessions into useful inventory and commerce. Global Robotics had an increasingly real place in which to experiment. The wizard decided there ought to be a technical term for this stage of economic development. He considered the matter carefully. Then he found one. Deluxe survival. Basic survival meant having enough coffee. Deluxe survival meant knowing where the coffee filters were. The next stage would be prosperity. After that, perhaps abundance. And after abundance? Well, there was always the spacecraft. Night watch, but that could wait until tomorrow. Tonight, the wizard was on the boat. The laboratory could sit quietly in the garage. The oscilloscopes did not need him. The robots could remain robots for another evening. The boxes would still be there tomorrow. The world's problems could survive a few hours without his assistance. Water moved gently against the hull. Above him stretched the same sky that sailors had watched for thousands of years. For once, there was nothing that needed measuring. No frequency needed calculating. No inventory needed pricing. No business plan needed revising. No machine needed troubleshooting. The wizard simply sat. Sometimes an inventor needed a laboratory filled with instruments. Sometimes he needed a boat beneath the stars. Both were places of observation. Both were places of discovery. And both could remind a person that the universe was much larger than today's problems. Tomorrow, the archaeological excavation of the garage would continue. Each instrument would eventually be photographed. Each would be identified. Specifications would be researched. Condition would be recorded. Approximate market value would be established. Possible laboratory uses would be listed. The 24 by 17-foot grid would gradually fill with equipment, benches, computers, robotics stations, communications gear, tools, cameras, experiments, and inventions. Eventually, they would discover what was missing. Then they would acquire those pieces carefully rather than simply accumulating more things. For tonight, however, the wizard had completed the most important entry on the first official gripe sheet of the new laboratory. Laboratory not yet complete. Started building it anyway. Operational. The wizard leaned back and looked toward the stars. Tomorrow there would be boxes to open. And somewhere inside one of them, there was almost certainly a cable for something. Global Robotics Corporation, Robert Colee.